Hey there, it's Pastor Eddie again with Al Bodette and Kim Ryan that's filming us. We want to spend just a few moments talking with you about end time prophecy. I've mentioned to you before, Al's a member of our church and he comes from a long time of studying the scriptures of prophecy and the second coming of Christ, the rapture. And so Al's got some great topics to lift up today. And so we're just going to share together and make a couple videos that hopefully you'll be able to watch. And again, we are going to want your questions, your thoughts, your ideas, and we'll have an avenue for you to email them to us as well as leave them here on Sunday mornings. Al, what have you got for us today? What's your thoughts?
Well, I've got a couple things. As a matter of fact, I've got a book here by Ken Johnson, The Rapture.
Okay.
And that can be purchased on eBay, on Amazon.
Okay.
Prophecy Watchers has it. And Ken Johnson is a doctor of theology.
Mm-hmm.
He deciphers the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Gotcha.
And he's pulled out a lot of information from the old time prophets and the early church.
Wow.
On the Rapture.
Oh my
and
goodness.
it was taught up until 340.
Okay.
And then Alexander the Great and
Gotcha.
Augustine started doing allegory, and it just changed the whole process.
Exactly. You just mentioned about the Dead Sea Scrolls. That's something we probably in the future should just really dig into, because I've studied those as well and read different books on that. They have found all of these writings, if you're not familiar with that, that were encapsulated in containers. And I've actually seen one of them. They have sent them around the country and they've been deciphered the best that they could. And they not only talk about the scriptures, the Old Testament, we have all the different Old Testament books, but there's also some books there that are fascinating about prophecy and about end times, like Enoch and other ones as well.
Yeah.
Wow, that'll be exciting. Go ahead with what we've got today.
Okay, the other thing I have is an article by a gentleman by the name of Mondo Gonzalez. He writes for Prophecy Watchers magazine, and this is dated 9/25. And what he's talking about here is the 9/27 prophecy of Daniel and how it's supposed to be interpreted versus how we interpret it.
Okay.
So the interpretation today, though, general knowledge is that there's going to be a peace agreement for 1 year.
A peace agreement between who now?
When
The peace agreement between who now?
Between the way it's interpreted today, people believe it's a peace agreement with the whole world.
Oh, the world. Got you.
But really, what it says that the covenant doesn't say peace agreement. And if you study the word covenant in the Old Testament, it's always goes back to the Mosaic Law.
Yes.
And never talks about a peace agreement.
Right.
And it also says many, a peace agreement with many, but the way many is written in Hebrew, it starts with an LA, which means completely different than nation.
Okay.
It's the many of the Jewish people.
Gotcha.
And especially the group that really wants to go back to the basics of the religion, the Torah.
I got you.
So
okay. Do you want me, is it okay with you if I read verse 27
Yes.
out of Daniel? And you mentioned about out of the ancient Hebrew, our folks may not know that the Old Testament was written in Hebrew and Aramaic, and the New Testament was written in Greek. Language. So it's so important as you're doing, Al, to go back to the original words, the original language, because sometimes the English or whatever translation, they do the best they can, but sometimes they don't get it right. But as we grow in our understanding of these Old Testament ways of writing, we understand even better. So if I can read just verse 27 in case they're not familiar with this, from the book of Daniel, chapter 9, verse 27, it says, "He shall make a strong covenant with many," that's the many you mentioned a while ago, "for 1 week, and for half of the week he shall make sacrifice, and offering then shall cease, and in their place shall be an abomination that desolates, until the decreed end is poured out on the desolator." So that's verse 27.
Right. Now, further in that, in his commentary, he talks also about the desolation that occurred back in 170 BC.
Yes, yes.
And that was they
Antiochus.
sacrificed the pig on the altar.
Yes, Antiochus Epiphanes. I remember studying that. Exactly.
Yeah.
They sacrificed a pig
Right.
on the altar of God, and so that was an abomination that desolates.
Right.
So that is like a beginning representation or fulfillment, but yet we still have the ultimate abomination
Right.
that's in our future.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that brings up another point too. Who's gonna accept an outsider to be this person to come bring a covenant with Israel?
Yes.
It has to be someone with heritage,
Yes.
and I would guess that probably from the heritage of Dan.
Yes. Which was one of the tribes of Israel.
Right.
Yeah. Now I've heard so many people say, Al, over the years, oh, I think that the Antichrist is going to come from maybe Europe or come from America or come from all these other areas. But I think the scriptures are clear that it's Arabic. It's going to be one of those Arab nations or Israel nation.
I agree.
And Dan, one of the tribes as well. Okay. Can you mention to the folks, and you and I have talked about this before, why you think Dan might be the original 12, why he would come from Dan?
Well, I think you have to have a Jewish heritage to be
Yes.
accepted by the Jews.
Right.
They're going to have a covenant with them.
Right, right.
And
But
they're
why
going
the
back
tribe
to
of
Mosaic
Dan?
law.
Yeah, but remember Dan has some negative aspects
Yes.
about him in the scriptures and in prophecy
Right,
as
he
well.
didn't want any part of Israel that the Lord gave him.
No, he seems like he's
He was
separated.
good enough over here.
Exactly. And you know what I found out as well is studying in Revelation when it talks about the fulfillment and the different tribes, Dan is left out in Revelation. So there again, it gives the idea that he's a little different than the rest.
Yep, sure is. if you could get this article yourself and bring it up, you can bring it up online from Prophecy Watchers. And it details how the Antiochus Epiphanes versus the Antichrist. Now, the similarity between the two, and also the difference between the two.
Good.
So how you can see in the scripture of Daniel, in Daniel 11:26 and Daniel 7:22, he talks about that abomination.
Yes.
And then he goes on to talk about the one that's going to happen in 9:27. So
Go ahead.
very similar, and but different. And he talks about it.
Yes.
Also, there's Matthew talks about it too in 24:15
Yes.
and 2 Thessalonians 2:3 and 4. So it's mentioned several times in the Bible.
Old and New Testament.
Yes, but you have to really be able to pick that out. I mean, you have to be a Bible scholar.
You know, and we'll get a copy of this and the address to get it for our online viewers as well as the church community as well. But I think what that says, what you're just saying now, is so much what I believe, Al, that many times we'll see a beginning of prophecy, but that's not the complete fulfillment. And in Matthew 24, Jesus is given some warnings about the fall of Jerusalem in AD 70 when Rome just wiped them out. But that's not all he's saying. That's like the beginning of the sufferings that was going to take place. And so I think the same thing with Antiochus Epiphanes was a ruler that desecrated the temple in 170 AD, as you said. But
BC.
again, BC was it?
Yeah.
That's right, the Greek Empire.
Yeah.
But that's not the complete fulfillment. And yet this article would show the separation of the ultimate Antichrist and him being like a precursor or pre-runner.
Yes.
As the Bible said, there's many Antichrists, but we have the ultimate one
Right.
in the final days. Does that sound right?
Yeah, it'd be very great to they'll
Okay.
accept that.
Well, let's hold right there for this one, and we'll let's make sure, Jen, we can get a copy of that address so folks can pull that up to really look at the article themselves. Okay, we'll be back with you again, so hopefully you're following us. And again, we're going to want your questions about what we could discuss about the end time prophecy. Blessings.